Hello, world. Welcome to episode 0 of the John C. Guthrie Show. I'm your host, John C. Guthrie. It's been a long time coming. I've been working on this for a while. That's a whole nother story. I'll probably get into that one day. Right now, I just want to tell you a little bit about myself, a little bit about the show, my vision for the show, where I want it to go, and we'll just see. We'll see where it ends up going. I'm 36 years old. I live in Beaufort, North Carolina, on the coast of North Carolina. Wonderful place. I recently stopped teaching college. I was full-time faculty at a small community college in Eastern North Carolina. Taught English and critical thinking. Prior to that, I did my Master's in Fine Arts in Creative Writing with a fiction concentration at George Mason University outside of D.C., and I taught there as part of the degree. I wasn't a TA. We were basically full instructors, but we were, it was part of our. We didn't really get paid. It was part of the stipend, but we didn't have people overseeing us directly or anything like that. We ran our own class. I taught literature, creative writing, and composition there. So all told, close to 5 years teaching at the college level. Prior to that, I've done all sorts of stuff. I was a wilderness guide in Alaska for 5 summers. That was all kinds of trips, remote, fly-in, backpacking, kayaking, bear viewing, some campground-based front country stuff, but a lot of super remote, pretty high stakes, proper wilderness. Talking giant glaciers, giant grizzly bears, cold rivers, that kind of thing. Additionally, I've sold cars. I've been a financial advisor. I worked at a newspaper for a while. I was the editor-in-chief of our Lit Mag in grad school. So I've done a little bit of everything. This is gonna help inform my perspective, and you'll see that as the show goes on. Let me tell you a little bit about my angle, my goal. So a lot of the stuff that I want to cover is going to be in the political, social commentary type realm. I'm a libertarian. I don't want this to be another libertarian show. Reason for that, I've been a libertarian for, 20 years. I have seen firsthand through conversations, through being a part of the movement in various ways, I've gotten the sense that, frankly, most people just don't really care. I think it's terrible. I think it's tragic. But from my perspective, the vast majority of people are not particularly concerned about liberty. They're not particularly concerned about freedom. They don't make decisions based on very firm principles like, we tend to do as libertarians. And it's all right. I get it. I really do get it. I've come to the conclusion that really people are concerned about their personal prosperity and well-being and that of their family to some slight degree, the community that they feel a part of. And honestly, beyond that, people have an idea of how they want to see society, and they're more concerned about shaping that society than they are, other people's individual rights. I disagree with that, but I get it. I really do get it. It's logical. We're basically cavemen who have computers. So, I try not to be surprised by human nature, or by our, more base instincts. All right. With that said, I don't think that I have all the answers. I'm not going to try to act like I have all the answers. I definitely have my perspective, but I'm going to try to be upfront and honest with my bias, with my perspective when it comes to any issue that we're talking about. So I'm not trying to pitch libertarianism. I am fiercely anti-partisan. What does that mean? Currently, we're stuck in a two-party system. I didn't vote for years. I voted for Trump. That might blow your mind. But having not voted since Ron Paul, didn't vote in the Hillary-Trump election, 2016, I decided to start voting again. Currently, I have slightly more faith in the Republican Party than the Democratic Party. With that said, I'm not a Republican. I really despise both parties. I see a somewhat larger glimmer of hope in the Republican Party than I see in the Democratic Party right now, but that's really all it is. The partisan divide in this country is insane. The fact that they have tricked the vast majority of us into fiercely identifying with one of the two parties, or at least that's the narrative. I don't know if you can say the vast majority of us. A lot of people don't even vote. I've been one, I get it. But, the left-right divide is real, and they've overlaid that with the conservative, liberal, Republican, Democrat labels. And it's crazy, honestly. My big thing, y'all, is I'm firmly convinced that all of our major problems are very solvable. Not only are they solvable, I really think there's a solution for almost all of them that would be, maybe not perfect, but let's say it would solve the problem to like a 90% degree. And I think it would be amenable to like 90% of people. That's sort of a number that I just have in my head, but I keep coming up with it, this 90% thing. We could solve the problem to a 90% degree, and 90% of people would be totally okay with it and would say, hey, this is a hell of a lot better than it used to be. I think that's achievable. Currently, what I'm seeing is I think we need some kind of left-right populist realignment. So, not crazy right-wing populism, not crazy left-wing populism. By populism, I just mean the levers of power should function for the people more than they should function for the most powerful politicians in the fucking billionaire class, right? The most powerful corporations. And that's where we are. That's a fact. And I think most people, whether they identify more left, more right, or libertarian, would agree with that and would want to see these changes. So anyway, that's my bias. Okay. When it comes to specific issues, again, I'm going to tell you where I'm coming from, and I'll go into the given issue from there. It probably sounds like I just want to rant every episode. It's not the case. I want interviews to be the centerpiece of the show. That's my goal. I'll probably supplement those interviews with focused journalism, so original research, original interviews, edited down, so not just conversations, but actually trying to present information. I'll probably double some of that up with writing, but primarily I want to go with the podcast route for a number of reasons. Maybe we'll get into that one day too. Big focus, y'all, is I want to highlight the absurd and the solvable. The absurd and the solvable. If you look around, I don't know how you can move through this society and not be struck by absurdities everywhere and unnecessary suffering that is completely solvable. So that's where I want to really work. All right, just a couple of quick examples. I'll go into more of these in detail later, but I just want to cover a couple quick things. It is March 15th, 2021. It's essentially a year to the day of COVID lockdowns. I just imagine this, y'all. This is reality. Can you wrap your head around the fact that we still don't know exactly how this disease is transmitted and exactly how the risk breaks down across various segments of the population? And what I mean by that is, they just said, the 6 foot thing, that's no longer necessarily true in schools. We think 3 feet is actually okay. At one point it was if you were around somebody in close contact for greater than 15 minutes. They have been all over the map on who's affected most, who has worse outcomes, that kind of thing. A lot of that's totally understandable. It's a new virus. I get it. 1 year in, it's absurd that we do not have concrete answers to those things. When the data really first started coming out 6, 7, maybe months ago about fatality rates by population, it was so hard to find that information. It was very, very, it wasn't reported on widely. You would see snippets here and there, and you would go look at the data, and it would be out of these tiny little studies. It's insane. That should have been obviously the first concern for the entire academic, medical, governmental, all of the institutions, media, government, academia, all of public health. That's the one question we should have been answering. Hey, how deadly is this thing? And to whom? That data they still don't talk about it much. It's crazy. It's crazy. And this, the same goes with transmission. How safe is outdoor? Why aren't we talking about it? Is California insane for banning outdoor dining for a year? Is Florida insane for having it open for 6 months or whatever the hell it's been? This stuff is complicated, but the thing that's most absurd to me is the lack of transparency around it. Don't you think we should have had, weekly briefings that lay this information out? Here's what we know. Here's what we think we know. Here's what we don't know. Here's where here's what we're investigating next. This is what we're currently trying to solve. Here's what we're going to report to you next week. That kind of thing. Look, it's easy to blame the politicians. Trump, you're an idiot. You should have done X, Y, and Z. Biden, you're dead. Whatever. You should do X, Y, and Z. But guys, it's not just them. It's not just them. Think about every organization that had the ability to step up and do something and how little of that actually happened. It's government on the federal level, state level, local level. It's academia. It's public health. It's media. That we should have been bombarded with that type of information. Instead, we got talking points and we got bits of information that were clearly designed to manipulate our behavior into a certain direction that they thought was best at the time. Lockdowns because we can't trust these people to to make their own decisions, that kind of thing. Which again, I get it, but it's not honest, right? It doesn't lead to more trust in the institutions. It doesn't engender faith in the most powerful, important institutions that we have. Anyway, end rant. I think you see where I'm going. Masks are the same way. Don't wear masks. They don't do anything. Maybe wear masks. Definitely wear masks. If you're not wearing masks, you're a terrible person. Cotton masks are fine. Maybe surgical masks are better. You should actually wear a surgical mask with a cotton mask over top of it, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's understandable, guys, that information like this is hard to come by at first. The fact that it took so long to get to where we are and we still don't have better data, it's inexcusable. It's insane. That it's total bullshit. We know N95s work, right? We know that. We have that data. They're something like 95, 98% effective for if you're wearing it and you're infected, or if you are wearing it and you are trying to prevent infection. We know they're extremely effective. I understand there was a shortage. Does it really pass the bullshit test that we are unable to manufacture more masks over the course of a year? A year. Really? I don't buy it. We've spent something like $6 trillion, and that does not count the free money that the Fed is printing, which is a whole different can of worms. The government has spent something like $6 trillion, and we still don't have enough N95s. We've developed as a globe something like 13 new vaccines. Many of them use mRNA technology for the first time ever. How you feel about that's a separate issue, but it's just like a technological achievement. It's incredibly impressive. We can do that, but we can't make new masks. Really? I don't buy it. I think it's absurd. Don't you think we could have distributed N95s to everybody? Don't you think they could have? I know there's fit issues and that kind of thing. You don't think they could have produced a video that would have been, pretty effective? I think they could have. The fact that we didn't, I think, is absurd. Maybe everybody doesn't need an N95, but, what about every single quote-unquote essential worker? Not just medical, but grocery stores, all these things. If masks are the answer, why were they pushing fabric masks, which we know aren't that effective? And we have masks that we know are effective. We just had a shortage. We really couldn't produce more. I'm just not buying it. Ultimately, I think it comes down to just ineptitude. I think a lot of our institutions are, I don't want to say corrupt just from a financial perspective, but they're just broken. They're just broken. And we're going to dive more into that later. If you don't see it, stick around. I think I can probably convince you. Just another quick example of absurd socio-political issues that can be solved. With all the talk about race and criminal justice reform, does it really make sense that the United States has a larger prison population than any other developed country on planet Earth? I don't remember the numbers off the top of my head, but, we have more people in prison per capita than, even like a place like China. This is the land of the free, and we throw people in cages willy-nilly. It's insane. It's insane. Do you think the left and the right could agree that we need to have fewer people locked in cages? I absolutely think they could. This used to be a left issue. As a libertarian, this was always one of the things, I would see on the left that I was, that I supported. But look at the success, the success from the standpoint of the public, the media with Donald Trump's prison reform, with his criminal justice reform. He let people out of prison. He reduced penalties. He granted clemency to a bunch of people. Right? I'm not talking about the crooked shit at the end. I'm talking about the stuff around the nonviolent drug offenders that he did. That was largely celebrated. It's absolutely on the table. Does it benefit you and me and, the average citizen? Not really. Can you get elected on that? It's probably not the easiest thing, right? Because it's just about doing the right thing more than it is benefiting people. And that doesn't play well politically because, the fucking weasels can't get votes out of that like they can promising you some free shit or scaring you about some boogeyman around the corner. But as Americans, as humans, we shouldn't tolerate that. People need to go to prison sometimes. If people do need to go to prison, I'm talking people, they need to be there. Anybody reasonably would see, X crime, and they would say, hey, that guy needs to be in prison. Sorry, he's one of those. He needs to go. Okay? If that's the case, can we agree that he or she should not be subjected to violence while we have them locked up? Should not be subjected to rape while we have them locked up? The numbers of people who are forced into race-based gangs, who are forced to commit or are victims of violence, physical and sexual, in prison is sickening. It's sickening. Can't we agree that that's not acceptable? I think we can. Is that an easy problem to solve? No, it's not. It might take more money. I mean, almost assuredly it would take more money. But if we're reducing prison populations, maybe we make prisons more austere. Maybe we force or really heavily encourage labor. I know it doesn't sound good. I know it it doesn't feel good to think about forcing prisoners to work, but it ain't the craziest issue. Would you rather work? And I'm not talking about breaking rocks in like the fucking Mississippi sun for 12 hours a day. It doesn't have to be insane. But what if we could have them work to offset the cost of being there, And in return, maybe they didn't have like every fucking amenity under the sun, but we could keep them from getting beaten, raped, murdered, or forced to join race-based gangs. It seems like a good idea to me, and I think it's super achievable. Anyway, my argument with a lot of these issues, guys, is that common sense, liberty-friendly solutions exist for virtually all of our major problems. The opioid epidemic, failing education from somebody who's spent years in education, we're definitely going to talk about that. Homelessness, immigration, our corporatocratic, it's a word I invented, corporatocratic, kleptocratic, crony capitalist economy that has nothing to do with free markets at this point. It's not about free markets. I'm as much of a capitalist as you'll ever meet. I think free markets are one of the most important things as human beings that we should seek to maintain and develop. That's not what we have today. It's absurd. We have an economy and a regulatory system that works for the highest paid, richest, wealthiest individuals and corporations in society. In a free market, a lot of those organizations and people would still be the richest. I'm not even saying like go after the fucking biggest companies or advocating for a wealth tax or anything like that. I have no problem with any of that stuff. If Jeff Bezos can make $1 trillion without favorable regulations, dude, good on Jeff. But the way our economy and regulatory system is structured, it's harder for the little guy to get anywhere, and all of the rules and conditions are tilted toward the biggest fish out there. And that's not okay. And again, I think we could have a left-right realignment around that, and that is obviously also liberty-friendly. All right, so anyway, that's the sort of sketch of where I am politically. That's the sort of stuff I'm going to focus on. I am not here to sell you on libertarianism. I want to focus on single issues at a time with full transparency. When I'm making arguments, I'm going to tell you when I'm making arguments. I'm going to tell you why I'm making the argument. If I'm educating you, I'm going to tell you where I'm getting my information. I'm going to show my work. I'm really not trying to persuade you of anything other than we can do better. That's the goal. Okay, to be honest, I'm not optimistic about any of that actually doing anything. I'm really not. Whether it's a lack of desire on the part of the public, always wanting more free shit, always falling for the division bait, or whether it's the entrenched powers, forcing that upon us, depends, but I don't see a lot of it changing. But with that said, y'all, I think it's our duty to try, right? It's our duty. We have to try to make our society better for everyone. It's not, like these issues aren't about me and how they affect me. It really is out of a desire to help those who were most disenfranchised, most downtrodden among us. I think we can all agree to that. So with that said, we have to try, but we can't lose sight of the personal. We can't lose sight of the personal. As individuals, there is a lot more that we can do to better our own lives and the people closest to us through personal improvement, entrepreneurship, traveling, expanding our horizons. We have so much more power to do that than the big global or even national level issues. So I want to spend a bunch of time on that too. All right, that's really it in a nutshell. As episodes go on, I'll tell you more about myself. Maybe we'll do Q&As, that kind of thing. I'm an open book, y'all. I really am. And like I said, I wanted to focus on interviews, but I'm also going to do some targeted journalism. I'll probably do some rants. So anyway, that's it. More information coming soon. Thank you so much for tuning in. I know you have a lot of ways to spend 25 minutes, and if you just gave it to me, I sincerely appreciate it, and I'll talk to you soon.